There we go.
It's got mine. I didn't like it. I didn't like it when I shaved it. So don't know what I'm going to do with it now.
You have to grow it a bit now.
Yeah. Well, this nature's telling me no.
Becoming a solar panel.
Yeah.
Oh. So we're chatting about Scott's just done a 12-hour walk that he was inspired, if you like, to do, having heard somebody else talking about it, and took action fairly promptly, which he does talk about at the beginning of the vlog, where he talks about, the prep work and most people build up to it. And you sort of didn't. You just decided, right, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it on Friday, and that was it. So, welcome.
Welcome.
And yeah, tell us more. Tell me more about it.
Well, there is it's interesting because it felt very, like you said, spur of the moment sort of thing. But interestingly, one of the insights I got while I was on the wall was it actually wasn't spur of the moment. In terms of the walk was just the vehicle, if you like,
Yeah.
to do it. But the internal work had been going on probably since October time last year, which was essentially, and as you know, I mean, we've known each other a little while now. You know that I'm constantly doing sort of personal development stuff, and around last year's, like, I felt I hit a plateau in terms of like with how I wanted. I don't know, like where my personal development was. So, and it's on the basis of growing, I think, very, very quickly, and sort of with the business end, but just personally as well, with just kind of my personal development growing very quickly, where people, noticeably were sort of changing me that knew me 2 years previously and stuff like that, and even got more spiritual and stuff like that. And I just kind of felt like I hit a plateau, and I was very, very clear in terms of like scaling the business to the next level. Has a lot of clarity around that, what that looks like, the build and scale program, everything like that. So I had a real clarity, like everything about that. But the one thing I didn't have clarity on was what is that next level of personal development. And I always kind of, over the last 3 years, I suppose, I've always done it on, I know roughly I want to get to that step, and when I'll get to that step, I'll know what the next step is. And that's kind of has transitioned like that. But this time I kind of got to a point where I'm not sure what the next step looks like, or even, or, whether I don't know. It just felt like there was a bit of a gaping void there, and for a little while I thought, well, I won't be on a program, or I won't, be actively doing anything, and just seeing what comes out, and be okay with that. And I think what I realized is that there was still that void of what am I working towards in growth, because I'm a strong believer in that you have to continually grow. You have to continually somehow, there's always another level of personal development, because there's a direct synergy I've seen with my business, with how I support my clients on the back of my own growth. I still claim that, I mean, that a lot of my strategies that I teach are not that much different from 3 or 4 years ago. The big difference is me and them, and coming from a different perspective and a deeper angle and a different values. And so
It's interesting that a lot of your, sorry to interrupt, but there'll be a lot of people out there in the coaching world, and one of the things is about change and self-change and evolving, and yet there's a point, I think, where there's a significant number of coaches that just stop. They think, right, this is it, where you just talked about that plateau, and they stop and they think, right, we've done it now.
Yeah. And I've seen
and they
people,
don't make
they've
any
become
difference.
a bit of a know-it-all as well, because they kind of
yeah
become very closed-minded because they think you know, I've done all of this and I'm at this point, and you know, you're still wearing it like that. And I don't think I turned into that person. Never wanted to turn that person, but I almost kind of missed having that. Well, what am I exploring next? You know, I'm just kind of thing. And then I think when I come across this the Saturday or Sunday before, I mean, it was only seems weird because it already seems a little time ago, but it was only a week
That's weird.
Friday ago that I did it. Yeah, so and so it was only like 2 weekends ago then, to be like this weekend before last, where um I I'd come across by accident on Instagram about this 12-hour walk with one of my mentors that was doing it, and I hadn't heard about it, and then kind of, well, that's quite interesting, you know, and quite weirdly, I like walking. Obviously, playing golf, like I probably do, you know, 10-12 miles of walking on the golf course each week, but it's a different kind of walking, obviously, and obviously walking bear as well every day, you know. But there's
Bear's his dog, for those that don't know.
yeah, there's my dog, yeah. So the and so I enjoy it, and you know, enjoying one of my things I was doing through personal development last year was the going for like another hour walk every night. You know, just like walk one direction for half an hour and then walk back. And so I kind of walked. I always kind of explored, and I've walked a few times, like 4 miles and back and sort of thing. And then so actually there's something about it. I thought, oh, actually, you know, that I'm never going to do a marathon because I'm not that stupid. I don't like running, so I do that. But and then when it just everything about it straight away. So I just kind of quickly, you know, looked at the guy, the Colin O'Brady, who's the sort of founder of it, sort of podcast and a video, watched a couple of podcasts, and I thought, well, actually, you know, that sounds, you know, exactly what I need, you know, just that, you know, I do, you know, have tried to meditate over it and whatever, but there was still something missing there, and maybe this is a way of bringing it out. And then I think that was like Sunday or whatever. Then Tuesday, I think just before our mastermind, yeah, you know, I wrote down kind of these limiting beliefs that were hitting me about it, you know, when my legs are going to hurt and all this sort of stuff, and you know, can I do it, and when am I going to do it, and all of them sort of things. I wrote down, just sort of kind of journal the limiting beliefs. Realized actually there was nothing to stop me. Due to be playing golf, the Wednesday, due to be playing golf the Friday, and then just went, no, actually, I'm going to do it. Instead of playing golf Friday, I'm going to do this instead. Um, and I thought that was the best way. It just felt like, so even though it was very, that part of it was very spur of the moment, just do it. It'd been bubbling where I've been looking for something. So it kind of felt like this is what I found that might be the answer. So I was quite happy to commit to it, quit on a, you know, quick basis, and just kind of, you know, do an ice bath or something. I suppose, you know, just jump in quickly was the way to do it. And with hindsight, should have done a bit more preparation. but, um, but yeah, and the only thing, you know, I think, well, you just alone with your thoughts, obviously 12 hours, you know, when the more I sort of kind of read into it, and the more it actually really appealed to me. Um, and that was it. And then I went off 6:30 on a Friday morning.
Yeah. And the
Yeah,
moon was still out. It was dark.
yeah, that
We were,
surprised me. I mean, I don't know why. I wasn't expecting that. It was a full moon. It was really lovely, and wasn't expecting. You know, I'd actually looked. One thing I had done research. I hadn't done much. You know, do to element. There's a couple of things I looked at, and one was, I was a bit worried about. I'll just come up with loads of business ideas because I'm good at doing that, and I'll come up with business models and I reached out to a mentor of mine who the one I saw had done it, and he said, write down some thoughts you can ponder to keep you track. You know, write down a list of questions that you can ponder while you're walking, to keep your mind sort of thing. And he said, and track your thoughts, which I'm really glad I did. You know, he said, even though you're not allowed your phone or whatever, you know, track your. He said, you know, just take snapshots of your things that come up, your aha moments and your epiphanies and stuff, and just every couple of hours, just track your thoughts of where the vlog come from. Really, I wasn't intending to do a vlog. It was just actually just capture my thoughts, and then I wanted to put that out there, if you like. And so I'm glad I did that. And then the only other kind of prep that I did was around the time. So I was like, well, it'd be nice to leave, because and most people go like, it's obviously dusk or dawn or whatever, you know, sun ups. Most people go, well, when's sun up, or, you know, sunrise, and when sunset. But there's layers, isn't there, of full darkness, first light, and stuff like that, and first darkness. So I looked at that and I thought it'd be really cool to go when full darkness ends, and then to come back should be at this time of year. 12 hours should be when full darkness then starts, if you like. So it's like I'm seeing every element of the night awake, and then every element of the night, you know, come to sleep, if you like. So I kind of knew it would be dark because that was the plan. It would be it's full darkness, but I wasn't expecting a full moon, if you like, and a bright moon, and that kind of that really surprised me initially. So kind of one of my shocks at the start, if you like. So.
And what I'm just getting the word that it's almost like for a full moon, it was like welcoming, like you made the right decision. You know, people a lot of people talk about the moon and the energy of the moon, and how it influences tides, how it influences so many different things in our lives, and we just ignore it most of the time, take it for granted. It's a given, we don't think about it. But for you to acknowledge that as being there, like you could have had a partial moon or a covered moon, but it was significant. You know,
And
this walk was
in Essex,
significant, and it
where
was
we are
kind
in
of
North
marking
Essex,
it.
and where we are in North Essex, the moon's quite low.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, you know, we're obviously same height, but it feels low for us in North Essex, and so that it's a very powerful. When we have a full moon here, there is a real powerful energy about it, and I kind of just gave into it. The first 20 minutes, half an hour walk were just really blissful. I just gave into that, and it really was a powerful energy. It was real. I was expecting initially a bit of, oh, it's cold, you know, whatever, it's windy, you know, it's like, oh, you know, only just started. But the first kind of hour really sort of, particularly when I got to the church, which is about 40 minutes away, it was just kind of a very uplifting, a very powerful one. You know, it's a very, you know, you can do this, and it's just going to be an awesome day. You know, it was like really, really have persevered, because I didn't have. I think I mentioned in the blog at the start, I didn't have positive thoughts really going into, because the Wednesday I fell over in golf and hurt my elbow, and then had to go to A&E with my elbow on Thursday night, and and funny enough, I was already, whatever it was, whether it was broken, whether it was dislocated, I didn't know, because it was just big and swollen and bruised and pointing the wrong way. I didn't know what it was, and it turned out just to be. But whatever it was, I decided it wasn't going to stop me. That was one of the interesting. I said, you know, even if I have to spend, I don't get home to 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever from A&E, it's not going to stop me. It didn't stop me during the day because I did all my calls and everything. I thought, I actually thought if I go at 6 o'clock at night, it'll be or around 5 o'clock at night, it'll be quieter. A&E. I was dumb. I got it. But I'd already made my mind up it wasn't going to stop me. It turned out it was just severe swelling and bruising, and movement was good for it. And then when I come home, getting ready to get in bed, stubbed my toe, and literally my big toe, half an hour was like hanging off, and it was like, for me, it was just the universe is testing me, and I'm just going to say I'm doing it, whatever, It's like the thoughts, and I'd already I think journaling about that really put me in a powerful mindset of doing that, and I think that first, say half an hour, 40 minutes with the moon was super powerful, and then when I got round to the church, which is about, I suppose, about a mile and a half, just over a mile and a half away from my door. It was just coming to 7 actually, so it was about half an hour, because it was just these 7 o'clock bells were chiming, and I'd never heard. So even the nine and a half years we'd lived here, never heard the church bells before. So again, that was quite a, with no other noise going about. It was just, it just felt very right from the start. This is it was like a super powerful thing to say. Got my mind into that mode of this is going to be powerful, which is everything was about it. So
sounds like there was a lot of if you like, affirmation from what one would refer to as the universe, outside of ourselves. So the moon, the thought patterns, the church bells ringing. Most times we pass a church, they're not ringing, they're not singing out the glory. You know,
Yeah.
um, and then being able to, around that time, you'd have started to hear the dawn chorus. The birds starting to wake up, the life waking
Mm.
up, if you like, on Earth.
Yeah, that was a really an unexpected but really rewarding part. Is like it was so it was so peaceful,
Mm.
and yet it was still like walking through like the village. It was interesting seeing people kind of like the lights on in their house and people leaving for work, the odd car here and there, and it was really amazing because it was like my whole life was in slow motion, the moment that they were really just panicking,
Mhm.
I saw someone coming out of a driveway, getting into a car, panicking. And it's like, for me, it just felt like my whole life was in slow motion, a little bit. There's one interesting thought I had later on was, I think it was only around, I think 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, something like that. And for me, it felt like it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And reality is I hadn't done anything, and it felt like it's really, I had a feeling of, wow, it's been a long day, it's like late in the afternoon. And I hadn't got up like drastically earlier than what I normally get up. So it wasn't like I was, when you leave a holiday, or, whether you're up in 2 o'clock in the morning, like 4 hours earlier, whatever. I was only up an hour or so earlier. And, but it felt like it'd been a really long day and a really productive day. And yet, kind of, I haven't done anything. I've just been walking and thinking, so, but that moment,
Interesting. I'm just going to reflect on that because the like we can often think to ourselves that we're not productive
mm,
when it looks like we're doing nothing, like, oh, we're just going for a walk, or we're just, but you'd already been productive for all those hours in your intention, like living out the intention of, I'm doing this walk and I'm going to be with my thoughts and reflect on, like, how much more awareness, self-awareness and awareness outside of ourselves or oneself that you can have.
yeah. And a lot of some of the parts of the journey were, the risk of sounding really spooky, it is a bit of an out of body
Mhm.
experience. Because you just feel there's something about right at the start. And it was one of the things I noted, actually, that I took a note of quite early on, was the that nature wakes up slowly, really, really, really slowly. And so, so, we're always in this rush, aren't we? Like, get up, at a time, and get out, and things. And it's just really like a whole, the quietness and the experience as you're waking up with it. And I was really off the beaten track when noises started, like even the animal noises and stuff like that. It started, and the birds coming up and the sun starting to come up. And I was really off the beaten track at that point. And I'm so glad I was, because it really felt like it kind of, yeah, it's almost like an out of body. It's a part, I was, part of my surroundings, if you like. And
Well, I think we
um,
forget that we are
yeah,
part of the surroundings. Like we think we're not.
mm,
And actually, it sounds a bit controversial, but you were probably having more of an in-body experience than an out-of-body experience.
yeah, yeah. And it was really, and the self-awareness is something interesting. It's
So just for
the
those that don't know, Scott is very self-aware. He's very good at self-awareness and self-reflection.
the funny thing is, I hadn't acknowledged that until doing the walk.
Really?
Yeah, that is
Well,
something come out.
that does surprise me.
Yeah, I've been told it,
Mm.
and um, I was kind of aware of it, ironically, but I hadn't fully embraced it as a gift. Like, I'm good
Mm.
at that, and and that come out in the walk. Yeah, really, that really come out of my. I was able to. It was the self-awareness, and it felt like self-awareness was times 100. It felt like it was just, it was free to be. And it was like, because you had to, a bit like, I don't know if anyone, like when you first start meditating. It's really, I found it really difficult, and I spoke to other people, they kind of find it difficult, and I found it difficult because I remember when someone sort of shared meditation with me, and I thought, oh, that sounds cool, sounds a good idea. And then when I first did it, I actually had so many thoughts. I was like, what the idea was, you go into, like that. But I had so many thoughts, and it was only after about 3 months, I think, someone said to me, "I will just let the thoughts come in and then let them go." And it was like, wow, that's powerful, And then when I, it just turned meditation completely differently. And it was a little bit like that on another level. Where I felt so aware of that, how I was thinking, and I was really thinking about myself from a third perspective. Because one of the things I wanted to do was on the walk was, well, some of the questions I had myself, but it was challenging myself, and it was like there was no, I didn't want to come up with anything that was like excuse that was down to anyone else. It was like, what is my purpose? What is one of the things I pondered myself is what the what behaviors am I doing which are not aiding my, me hitting my be fulfilling my purpose. What are negative behaviors of mine? And there was a lot of things I pondered where it really felt I was kind of outside of my, but talking to myself, as a third person rather than anyone else, and it was like no one else to blame, no one else to talk to. It was just, me pondering these questions to myself around,
It's like the me, myself, and I having a
yeah, it
conversation.
was, yeah. And it was through that experience that I was capturing my thoughts. It's because what I did realize, and I kind of I can't remember what I exactly wrote. I got it somewhere on one of my aha moments, but um your mind does try and distract you. It just, so it was doing everything it could to distract me, and I was having to work really hard the first couple of hours of, no, let that thought go. I want to go back. I want to really challenge myself on this, and so that was interesting. That was when I got a real insight. I felt that, and I think when I've recorded my first, I actually, funny enough, I've only watched the vlog back once, if you like, when I did it, just to make sure we're swearing in it and the edit, and I didn't edit it, I just pieced it together and that was it. Um, and it was really weird when I watched the not when it's in the house, but the first part, my first kind of after, and that was sort of 2.5 hours in. I think it was just over two, just over
That's
2
when
hours
you
in.
were in the bus stop.
Yeah, and I really felt, I could see it in myself, the enlightenment that I had that had been a life-changing experience already. Watching that video
You
back,
physically, your face changed from what you.
I could even see it myself, which is really, and that was quite real. But that the self-awareness at that point was just, and that was that was me first time I'd really acknowledged, actually I've got a lot of self-awareness, and then when I sort of kind of look through the couple of days later, all the notes I'd taken, it's yeah, I hadn't acknowledged it. I knew kind of, that it was a thing, but I hadn't acknowledged that it was a strength of mine, if you like.
And how is it? How does it sit with you now, knowing it now?
It's difficult to say really, because I've just more confidence in it. I think it's the trust would probably be a word that springs to mind that I'm hearing coming out. It's the thoughts. It was interesting because I had this mindset that I had these questions to ponder, and I didn't really want to. There were nothing to anyone else. It was about me and that experience in it. And I did think that it would be all about business. To be honest with you, I thought I'd do this one, and all the stuff would come out around business, and then I'd do another one about life stuff, really. And it wasn't like, it was a real mixture of both, if you like. But everything kind of that come to me, it was like, well, it's just not business. That's me. That's my essence. That's my being. That's showing up as, um, and that bit really felt, just super. It gave me a trust element now of kind of a lot of the thoughts I had that come up that to key off is going, really like from a confidence level now, you know, like I actually almost trust my self-awareness a lot more than I do. Um, you know, and thoughts that go with things, you know. So there's been a couple of instances as well where things have um come up and I've let myself be in the moment, create what I want to create, not knowing. One of the interesting things that we're doing been this close to time is had people joining the Build and Scale program getting on boarding strategy call.
Hmm.
Now what's interesting is majority of people that come on them, it's the first time I'm seeing them, like meeting them.
Wow.
Like, so they're either coming through Jess, who's brought them on board, or like the one today with Roberto that just, you know, replied to a post. We've had a messenger thing, but it's like signed up, and it's the first time we're speaking to each other, and then it was interesting. So the night before, the day before, when I went to I had my elbow, right, and I was like, because of I journaled it, and I'm not gonna let anything stop me doing on Friday.
Hmm.
When I come to Thursday and I had my elbow, and I remember I had a call with Susie in the morning. It's like she's going, "Oh, you got to go to hospital." I'm going, "No, I've got calls to do. You know, got Eddie to talk to. You said I think Becky was the other one. I think on that day, but I'm going to do all of them, and then I'll go, then I'll have dinner, and then go to the hospital. You know, it's like, um, so kind of, and I wanted to be in the moment and then things, you know, and then that night, interestingly, that um everyone that I'd done the call with, the onboarding call, Ben mine hadn't met them before. Gave me, or you said that actually I'd met before because he joined our mastermind in October. You know,
Hmm.
the that one, um, but only, you know, what you saw of him is what I saw of him that night. You know, so I didn't know him as a, and and I was really awareness of that. I wanted to give the all for that. You know, like, and
Hmm.
I wasn't gonna let my elbow, a sore elbow, that, you know, technically was a silly thing, falling over playing golf, but the I wasn't going to let that stop me being in the moment, giving my all, and being who, you know, who I am to serve to people. And it's interesting, every one of those unsolicited gave a testimonial, if you like, about their experience, and it really got me through on Thursday night when I come out of the hospital and was getting the car, and then I was listening to these, right, and it was quite emotional, but it really kind of gave like, that's why I did that today, because I didn't want anything. I just determined I was going to do that, and at my fullest, without moaning about my elbow. I mean, I'm sure them three, other than Susie, I don't think they ever knew I had a sore elbow, you know. So it's like, it wasn't deter me. And then when I've had the one since, it's like that self-awareness to fully trust myself that actually it's the first time I'm speaking to people. They're telling me, you know, things, and we're hashing out a strategy or a plan, and it is life changing for them, you know.
Hmm.
um so in terms of that, from the self-awareness is not, it's really weird. So the self-awareness hasn't just transpired to me. Something I've noticed differently is I'm able to see it in other people. um so, you know, it's like, then we just ask you, that's what lights you up, you know, that's actually that bit, you know,
Yeah.
a, I'm seeing I'm seeing something different that I didn't see before, in with real clarity, if you like, you know,
Mm.
with with someone, with people just sharing me what, you know, I've never met them, don't know their business, they're sharing me their problems, you know, their background, and then just to be able to go, right, bang, actually, aha, you know. And I think Becky mentioned in one of her ones, you know, it's like she said, you know, I kind of just ask questions, and then I went like 20 minutes and kind of mapped out her next 5 years, you know. It's like, um with real simplicity and clarity, you know, which is what, yeah. And I think that's the other thing as well with doing the work, is the things I talk about, I change myself. Do I really simplify things for people and stuff like that, and all that sort of, the awareness from that sort of stuff come out really, just, I don't know, it's just give me another level of confidence, I think, to really trust the person I am, you know, the being that I am. Whereas I suppose in the past, you know, it's like everything I had mentors and stuff like that, and they will shape you a little bit into them and stuff like that, and I've been really fighting that back over the time. And
Hmm.
also with my clients, I don't want you just to copy me and, you know, be like another Scott. And And that was all. It's all been amplified, really, I think, since then, by understanding that self-awareness is just so key.
Mm.
Um, it's not even self-awareness, just awareness, I think I mentioned in the blog when I had the break, the sausage and chips, which I was just so looking forward to.
I know,
But
I've written a note about that. I'll come back to that in a minute.
when the
That's
time
about halfway through for those of you that just want to go and listen to that bit.
yeah, yeah, is but about the yeah after that, I started walking on the Flitch Way in Rain, which anyone around Braintree or Rain knows. I started at the Braintree end and walked the whole of Flitch Way on the way back. Um, the I stopped having aha moments and insights. I was just really at peace.
Mm.
Um, is Had a cigar lit up, and I felt so connected to everything around me. People walking past with dogs. There was a real, I
Oh,
don't know.
that's really filling my being. That
Well,
warming my heart. My heart's just going,
yeah,
oh, like when you just relax into like a warm bath or just
there's
that.
something. It's really there was a good example of it is I just stopped at one stage, and I remember after thinking about it that I didn't even question. I didn't have a thought, oh, I need to stop and look around. I just stopped and I looked round and I saw a bird in the trees, and it wasn't really moving that much. It was just kind of just there on the branch. And I just stared at it probably for about a minute, and when you're standing still, that's like a long time, isn't it? And then just with a smile on my face, and then just carried on walking, and then I kind of had that awareness. Oh, do you know what I just did there? I just stopped and had a moment with that bird. It's like, and it was, it wasn't like obvious on the end of the tree. It was like in amongst the branches, and then it was very weird. They're kind of the I started going to Flitch Way as a gentleman walked past me with two dogs, and which nothing unusual in that, two dogs, and past and funny because I lit a cigar. We had a conversation about cigars because that was a really nice aroma, and we had a brief conversation about cigars. That you should. The thing of the 12-hour walk is as little human, um, if you like, conversations as
Hmm.
possible. So even when you're not trying to be rude, but you're trying to kind of limit your conversations with people and your communication with people. Even when I was in the pub, when I found a corner, like away from everyone, and so I kind of quickly walked on, from a gentleman with two dogs, and then a pram went past me. A lady went past me with a pram, and it was a twin buggy thing. So and again, didn't think anything of it. Just smiled at her, carried on walking. If anyone knows this Flitch Way, it's kind of there's a part of it which is quite popular between Rain and Braintree as well. So there's a lot of people. There's people from housing estates can walk in off of it or whatever. So there's a little bit of not busy, but okay. And then this person passes me, and they've got two dogs. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And then out comes this bit of the guy with a buggy, and it's a twin buggy. And then I said, everything's in twos, And they look
Hmm.
ahead, and there's two women walking towards me, and I thought, and it just something very, and I just felt at that time really at peace. It's the only thing I could say was just absolutely, they probably thought I was smoking a joint or something. I'm having a cigar. I don't know why I looked at everyone, but I just felt really at peace, but really connected with everything. I could hear every noise, I could feel everything. It was a very surreal moment, but it was a very warm hearted moment. It was a real one that's before the pain kicked in. That was as well. So I don't know where it was, but
It sounds
preparing me.
like a moment of not clarity, but like that being your beingness, being in your beingness.
If I we hear the word, especially I suppose in our industry more
Hmm.
than ever, is this inner peace. And
It's
I've
funny
never
how people search outside for it.
so
And you had enough awareness to realize it's inside.
yeah, yeah, and that was and I'd never really, it's not something I chased or even, you know, I've
Mm.
done meditation journey and obviously really getting more spiritual, particularly the last sort of 12, 18 months, but never really thought I'm searching for inner peace. It's not, I don't, you know, it's kind of, I don't think it's me because I kind of like to be, you know, busy implementing stuff and, and, but it's the only way I can describe it. I just felt at complete inner peace,
Mm.
you know, without, and it's the only time in the walk as well where, and it's interesting that I had to walk 7 hours, have a break, you know, obviously, you know, recharge if you like a little bit with some food and then light a cigar and just be kind of at peace. But it was, I had no thoughts, I had no insights. I was aware enough to know that I'm not having any thoughts. I'm not thinking, you know, I'm not thinking at all, you know. And it was almost like I felt connected to everything that was around me.
Mm.
um and it was an area where it wasn't just nature, you know, it was nature, and then there was, you know, it's an off-beaten track, the Flitch Way, and it's an old train track, a very old train track that's just a walking path now. But it's houses either side of it, you know, and on the point, funny enough, the point that I got in a piece was the point where there's more houses connected to it than anywhere else along the route. um but again, it just, I just felt connected to everything, you know, hearing things in the gardens, hearing, you know, nature, you know, just it was, yeah, it was quite a surreal moment, but
Mm.
um a real peaceful moment as well. Yeah.
And have you been able to like connect with that, to continue that since then, to
I think,
experience it?
yeah, not to that level,
Hmm.
um not to that level. I think to get to that level, you've almost got to completely drain your mind and your body to get to that level. But that's my feeling now afterwards. It's just like, could I just come in to do some deep work, you know, and just go off on my own and like in the office here and go to that space? I'd find very difficult. I think part of it was that I drained my body. I'd gone past a point of which I thought I couldn't go past. So I was already in kind of, wow, you know, I've knocked down some limiting beliefs, you know.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't also, it's about, funny enough, about, I had no concept of how many miles I would do. And it wasn't about, I want to do 40 miles or do 50 miles, or whatever. It was just about the time, spending that time alone and the thoughts. So there was no concept around trying to do as much mileage as possible. It was more just, you know, go off the beaten track of it. And then kind of that point of which way I'd hit, like, for me, I thought I would do, I was thinking, you know, 12 hours, I'd probably end up, you know, once a couple of breaks and sit downs, and I'd end up doing, you know, whether I do 15 miles, 18 miles an hour, you know, mile and a half an hour, you know, I thought, you know, once you slow up and stuff like that, that was my fault. And taking the break. So I got to that point and I think I'd hit the 20-mile mark. It was kind of already, wow, you know, if you said to me on Tuesday, you know, or the Sunday before, you're gonna walk 20 miles, I'd have gone, no way, you know, no way I
Mm.
can do it. And so you know, and so at that point it was kind of, I'd already gone through the limiting beliefs, I think, and I think body was tired, been recharged a little bit. um Mind was almost exhausted from the amount of thinking, if you like, and deep stuff. And you know, when you go deep, you get tired, and I think it put me in that state where um yeah, we're just kind of, you know, and not worried about the outside world, not worried about what people think of me, just, you know, not listening to, I didn't know, you know, anything could have been going on in that world, you know. I had, like they suggested, you know, I had my emergency, you know, Nicole was my emergency thing. I did ring Nicole from the pub, you know, to say that kind of, you know, done something, I'm okay, you know, and I'm on course and I should be all right, you know, and a very quick call, and that was that. And but you know, there could have been anything going on, you know, could have been World War III could have started or whatever, you know, I didn't know about it. And so I think you almost have to put yourself into there. But what I have noticed since is I'm definitely things feel slower. I feel more connected, more aware of everything that's going on, and being able to go, this is important. It's like, a bit like I think that's a lot like Leah's off ill today. She was really warm in the like heat. She had a said to us quite a bit. She obviously had heat. Said in the night or whatever, and so it's been sure. And just one of the things like wanted my tablet, and it's like, oh, I'm using that for work or whatever. And then it was like kind of bigger picture. Don't need to use my tablet for an hour and a half. She can use it, I said, there's my tablet. I need it back at 4:15 because when I see them, it's like, so it's little things like that where you would just go, oh no, I need that, or oh no, I need to do this, and everything feels a bit more. It feels a bit more slower. It feels a bit more in control. I think that's probably the only way I can describe it in a human sense is that it feels feeling just aware of it and in control of it. And it's interesting then even playing I play golf on Wednesday, and the course we played out weren't allowing buggies because it'd been raining, so it's like I've got to walk this, and it's not an easy walking course. You might know it, Hainault Forest, I suppose, and even now when I got to the whole sort of 12, 13, whatever, I was starting to feel really, my legs were starting to tired and all that. But it was interesting to still play some good golf there, because I was like, there was no, I think beforehand, I would have questioned, am I going to make it? Am I going to carry, I feel tired, and the wheels would have fallen off, and, and I'd just be moaning and whatever. But it's just a little bit of pain. I'll be all right, I'll finish the round, I'll get home, rest, have a hot bath, and I'll be all right, and so my perspective on stuff has definitely changed.
Mm. There are key words you're saying, so I'm just making notes of them.
I'd definitely be one about my perspective change. It's hard to communicate it, to how it exactly is, but
those that know. People were listening to this, watching this. If they've will know because we know what you're talking about. We've done it. We've been there. We it's not the same experience, but it's the memory of it evokes to be similar.
It was like going on a personal development retreat. It was, it was that. Funny enough, it felt like I'd been away for the weekend, when I come back, it's like, it felt like I've been away a lot longer than just a day, and then, I mean, it come tumbling down. I mean, one of the things that, not regret, I was going to use the word again, but just kind of aware that's the wrong word to use, because not really regret, it's just a learning curve of it, that the 12 hours without any preparation was about an hour and a half too long. The last hour and a half was just pure painful. And there was nothing good coming from that, because I wasn't at peace. I wasn't getting any more insights. I was just surviving. But the learning from that was that I could still survive. Even it's again, I was at a point where I thought, well, I can't walk anymore. But then when I look back, I walked 4 miles after that point. so the point where I thought I couldn't walk anymore, I walked 4 miles. And arguably before that, you think I'd have to be, feeling great to walk 4 miles in the first place, so to just walk 4 miles when you think, I can't walk anymore.
It's interesting, the shift in even in the way that you're speaking about it, because the at the beginning, like your awareness, the self-reflection, all those limiting beliefs, my legs are going to hurt, the hurting your elbow, stubbing your toe, like, have you got enough stuff? Have you packed enough? And then, oh my goodness, my bag's quite heavy. I'll be glad as it gets lighter. That all of those things, and at that, before the last 4 miles, like at that moment when you weren't no longer getting insights, there were, no longer feeling at peace, connected with everything. It was just like an endurance thing. I've got to finish this. You could have stopped. Like, you could have just said, Nicole, come pick me up.
Well, it's interesting
Phone for a
because
taxi.
one of the podcasts that I listened to with Colin Brady, so the author
Hmm.
of our book, who's done a lot of his adventure and stuff like that, and it's definitely one of these people. You know, knowing what he's done with like set 10 world records and crossed the Atlantic, and so you know, it's like probably 12-hour walk is nothing for him. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
done. But but it's interesting that one of the podcasts I listened to, I think it was the Ed Meyer. There's a podcast he does with Ed Meyer, which is just super, just really, just even if you're not going to do 12-hour walk, it's worth listening to. Um, and he talks about when they were climbing this. I can't remember what mountain it was, but they were going to do an expedition up a mountain, and he had a real thought of I can't do this and something's bad, and then he got on his phone to his wife on a satellite phone and decided to turn around and go down, you know, go back.
Hmm.
And then most of that crew died a couple of days later on the things there. So and he has a real belief that if he carried on, he would have been obviously part of that team that unfortunately perished away. And there's a bit he talks about where is, you know, if you have that real strong insight, there's nothing wrong with saying no and stop and can't go on. So I had them thoughts for that podcast come to my mind, you know, like
Yeah.
I can stop now. I can say stop and do it. And then there was a little bit of, and this is interesting because of all of the personal development I've done during the day and self-awareness, right? And one of the things was being so one of the questions I asked myself was um what behavior well it's one of what behavior is hindering me, but what good behavior looks like in terms of inspiring, you know. So
Hmm.
one of my things was what inspires me to fulfill my purpose. I pondered myself. Sounds a simple question, quite deep when you're on your own video
Hmm.
thoughts and pushing yourself and pushing yourself. Um, and then one of the things is one that I asked myself was what behaviors do I, you know, think? And at that point, a little bit of kicked in, not only like survive, but actually, yes, I'm going to be in pain for a couple of days and stuff like that. And but that'll be much more inspiring to my kids, to people who knew I was doing it, to say that I'd done it and I completed it, rather than, oh, you know what, I got to 8.5 hours, or I got to, well, whatever, it was an hour and a half, I got to 10.5 hours, you know, and it was in pain. And, you know, there'd always be that element of I didn't do it, I think, a little bit. And
Hmm.
then, and I really was really aware of what would, you know, how I've squashed so many limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
but I don't want my kids to be thinking, you know, oh, but you know, you called a cab at an hour and a half because you was in pain, you know. Oh, there was something about I needed to, on the app, you have a timer thing on the app that you start the 12-hour app, and that little image I had on Facebook where it showed like completed. There was something that really I needed to have that, to be who I was being to other people,
Hmm.
to be inspirational to family, clients, friends, you know, whoever follow me, to be all of them things that, well, you know, that exercise we've done research about what do I stand for. So
Yeah.
this it's ironic we did that session because this really come up, this
Yeah.
showed up in a beautiful way. And it's at them moments of, at that point, where I'd put myself, it's not like I'd, you know, something in life had happened, I put myself in that situation. Hadn't done the preparation, you know, of doing a 6-hour walk or doing, then building it up, just done it. So it was all on me, but it was a real thing of actually, to be inspired, to be to be the person I want to be,
Hmm.
is I need to get through this. And then it was like I was weighing up. I had a point where I was weighing up at a crossroads, funny enough, just over it, because I was like, well, if I carry on now, there's no going back, because it'd be too far to go back. So if I'm going to go back, it'd be now to this point where I can get a car, because I've gone past civilization at that point. It was in the middle of nowhere at that point. And the only thing around me was the A120, I think, within, and that was quite a way away. So it was almost that was the point of sort of kind of no return. And there was a real like, right, so if I do stop now, there's no shame in it, there's fine. Yeah. But then it was like, do I really feel like I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna be life threatening? You know, and that I didn't feel, you know, I just thought, well, I can carry on, I can slow my pace down, just do what I do. I can the night becoming, it was getting dark at that point. So I was
Hmm.
thinking, well, so I can use the power of the moon coming up to energize me. And I wanted to experience that. I wanted to experience going from daylight into full. So I was in dusk at that point. So I wanted to experience it going into the full darkness as well. So there's all these things there. And I think because I squashed so many limiting beliefs during the day, that at that point it felt like, yeah, not an issue, not a problem. Yeah, it was going to be a bit of pain. It's going to feel a bit of pain, but um, nothing that hot baths can't cure. Um, so yeah, so that was that bit that just got me through that part actually, really.
Mm.
And that is all the evidence is saying, doing the work for the previous part of the walk of challenging myself. What do my behaviors look like? What
Mm.
inspires me? What message do I want to be? And and it was a real survival instinct of I want to be able to say I've done it, and it was really weird because it was like the awareness I was getting at the time was it wasn't for me, it was for other people. I didn't know who it was for, but it was for other people, you know and and hopefully people that know me will go, well, if Scott can do a 12-hour walk, I can do that, or
Mm.
whatever, I can do a marathon or something, and so that was a part of it that was really pushing me on from a different element of, but going into survival
Mm.
mode. But agreeing, now that I've done it and completed it, next time I wouldn't have, I would do it and probably cut it off around 8.5 hours, and or until I got that peaceful moment, because I'd want that again, that inner peace moment, that pure inner peace moment, I should call it.
Mm.
Kind of labeled it in my mind as the pure inner peace moment, but
Quite it's very, yeah, I know what you mean. It can be very difficult to explain because you have there's nothing, if you like, that you can compare it to, because you have no wants, no needs, there's no desire, there's just being and awareness and space and freedom and
it's interesting, 12-hour walk, because it does chip away a little bit as well, because your first thoughts about what my purpose is, and
mm.
what grandeur things come out your mind, and
Yeah, I was
then
aware of that with as you're like the notes I've taken. It's like as I read through them, and it's like very superficial, very like in this on the earth plane, very, oh, now we're starting to go deep. Oh, now we've fallen down the hole. Now we're lost in that
yeah,
space. And like who
it's
you
like your
become.
magical wants, and that's where that come out,
Mm.
magical wants, because of the um a, a Ferrari passed me, and it was interesting that at that point I realized that all I want is a pair of socks, and a new fresh pair of socks at this point. That was like, is that all of these things that you walk out, you go, oh, the stresses of life and everything that's going on, whatever. And then it's like at that point, all I wanted was a fresh pair of socks, and then it turned to, see, as a vlog, it then turned to, well, actually, all I want is a sausage and chips now, nice. So, chip. And it was really funny because it was like a real. Then when I was planning out my sort of journey, when I got to Gosfield, I think the third part of the vlog, if you like, so the second part on the journey,
Hmm.
um, it was right. Okay, now it's more tactical. Like, where do I go where I can go and get a pair of socks and a hot meal, and sausage and chips? It's like, well, I'm walking in that direction, so because I know, if I go that direction, at least I can. If I don't find anything on my path, I can go off that way, but so it got it's interesting that yeah, again, kind of all this, just say, like, all the superficial stuff goes, and you just kind of, you just, what you really really want, if you like, because
And
too.
interesting because um a lot of people that I talk to, they talk a lot about manifesting. I know you're very aware of the power of manifestation, um and it was certainly something when I was watching the vlog that kind of energized me. I was very aware of that, like an underpinning energy, like if I was listening to music, it's like a note that I would hear throughout, like the beat of a drum, if you like. It was very much around this, your ability to manifest, like your true desires, what you truly serves you.
Mm,
Like you either manifest the opportunity for that or go and get it. Like
mm.
it happens
And
for
that
you.
was
And that showed up when you were talking, because very early on, um, what was it you said? You can't have enough pairs of socks. Was it was one of your initial thoughts? You just can't have enough changes of socks to be able to do this walk. Um, and then not having more changes of socks, and then manifesting the ability to purchase more,
mm,
because we can all do it. And this is how easy letting go of the need to control how it manifests, like the what of it, but just the follow the desire of it and it will appear.
yeah. And again, that point as well, there was a real there was a real feeling of I was I was experiencing it, but I was also watching myself experiencing it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and and even the socks, it's like, oh,
Mm.
it's like I come size, oh good. It's just like, and the
I
fit
mean, for
quality.
me, it really represented like that energy of change.
Yeah.
Like people, like especially this time of year, beginning of the year, New Year's resolutions, people do this whole thing about wanting to change, the desire to change, and yet the struggle with change. Like, and we get taught it that change is difficult. You've got to do this for X amount of, and it isn't. It's as easy as changing your socks. It's as easy as, um,
Well, it's
you
like
know,
that in one half a day, I suppose reality is a 12-hour walk. I think the reality of it is it's not a 12-hour walk. It's a weekend. I hadn't really
mm,
recovered until Monday. Really, it's like I was in a lot of pain when I come back and dizzy. And my thought was when I was coming back, I'll get home and have a hot bath. It's like I spent 20 minutes, lying on the kitchen floor, literally butt naked, and I could have quite easily stayed there for the whole night, by the way. Yeah. Then crawled upstairs and then obviously recovering the next day, and then it slowly got better. And then before sort of Monday, sort of, if you like, fully recovered a little bit.
but also
But
before that, the decision you made, because
yeah,
wasn't it one of your friends asked to go to have a lift home or something? Was that with that? No,
no.
no, that was something different. Well, I don't
But,
know why that's.
but that whole period, if you like, from hearing about it, deciding on the Tuesday quickly, voicing it in the mastermind to kind of
Hmm.
put it out there to. I think I said to you guys, challenge me if I don't do it. It's that, and then so that kind of I realized in that in me that I need that kind of almost that dare to, like what I need to
Hmm.
do is for other people, and doing it and then recovering it is, that has changed my life in just such a different perspective and outlook.
Mm.
And the very final one, I think I said it in the quote, I did put up on my post, if you like, that the very final one was, is like, and funny enough, Colin O'Brady, who actually, when I put it on my Instagram, replied back to me, actually DM me on it, but I had and shared it out, but the couple of days for a couple of days of pain,
Hmm.
but it's a lifetime of lessons. So it might be a couple of days of pain, but it was just a lifetime of lessons, in a very short space. I think I said it like the pain will last a couple of days, the life lessons and insights will last a lifetime. um
And are there any insights you'd like to share?
um yeah, there was loads. Probably be like another hour being over, but I think some of the one of the really key ones was you don't have much interaction with the idea is you don't have much interaction with people,
Hmm.
but you can't not have interaction with people. And there was a funny moment. There were a bus driver actually stopped, said, "Do you want to, do you want to lift?" Because he saw me walking. we're in a very country part of the road, and I said, no, I'm doing a walk. He said, where are you walking to? And I said, well, I'm doing I don't know. I said, I'm just doing a 12-hour walk. And he went, a 12-hour walk? How long is that going to take? I was like, 12 hours. It was like, he went, oh, awkward moment. They just drove on, And but one of the things that I was very much happy. I don't know what it was. I just felt very happy for the whole day. Really, because I think just stepping out your door and just your backpack on, you're going, you kind of, no, I don't think I mentioned this a lot, but I got about 20 minutes down the road, and I realized I hadn't actually got my wallet. I hadn't got my cards, and then they say take cash on you and your cards, just for emergencies and all that. And I thought, well, I haven't got my wallet. What? And then what am I going to do? I've got to go back, and if go back is in, I'm going to, and what do I do? And then I was like, oh, hang on, I have got my phone on me, so I've got Google Pay. I can use my phone. I've got it on my phone, so might not an issue. And just carried on walking. So just that in itself puts you in a different frame of mind. And I just felt incredibly, as much deep thinking I was doing, I felt incredibly happy. And one of the things that I noted that I had an insight is that you can't wait for other people's reactions to determine your own reaction. So what I noticed is
say that again, just for everyone to hear.
I don't know exactly what I put. It might not be verbatim, but you can't. I can't find it now, but it's right there now. I can't find it. But you can't wait for people's reactions to determine how you react. And the example I give is, so I feel a conscious walk in terms of whenever I saw cars, I got up on the bank. There's a lot of roads, there was no pavements or anything. So just got up on the grass bank. And for me, as cars went past, I was kind of just saying thank you, and people, and even people just passing like a couple of horses past me, just saying good morning, stuff like. Even I was like little interaction. I was just happy, and I was just like happy to see people. And it's just like when you go right off the beaten track and you don't see anyone for 3 hours, and you see someone, it's like, oh hi, it's like, and you just walk on. And then, but what was interesting was I noticed early on that like the cars, particularly people going past, that wouldn't say thank you. Or wouldn't say it. And I caught myself at one point where I went up a bank and because I went up on the bank, there's about 3 cars went past. The first one went, oh no, the first one passed didn't do anything, didn't wave or anything like that. The second one didn't wave anyway. And the third one waved, and I quickly went like that, to wave, say thank you back, And then I realized, caught myself, and I thought, I was ready not to acknowledge that last person because of the experience of the other 2.
Yeah.
So throughout that whole thing, I thought, I don't care if someone blanks me, doesn't it? I'm not going to wait to see if they say thank you before I say thank you. And it was interesting a lot of times where there wasn't much interaction during the day, but there were some people where they felt awkward because I said, there was a couple coming out at one point. I was walking through, funny enough, the back side of Gosfield, and I just went, good morning, how's your day? And they were like awkward, it's like, oh my god, yeah. And then just carried on, and I could have been so, oh, you blah blah blah, stuff like that, but just I don't care, because I'm not going to let their reaction determine my reaction and take that. And the next person went past, just. And then, funny enough, I went up to, there was like a village shop there, and I said, I said, morning, I'm going to ask you, and he said, oh, and it was really friendly, and it was just I could have easily taken that experience and gone to the next one. And that was a really insight for me, that whatever your reaction want you to be, you want to be someone that doesn't say thank you to people, or you just want to, and I'm a fairly introverted person, so I'm not an extrovert at all, but I caught myself in that moment that I was allowing other people's reactions to determine how I react. And so I wasn't being who I was truly being.
Yeah.
I was truly being me in that scenario, because I was being what they had caused through that reaction.
And I suppose expectations as well.
Yeah. So that was a real defining moment. And I think So I won't do too many. I'll just pick out one that's, I think there's um yeah, so that, oh, that was sorry, don't wait for other people's reactions to determine your reactions. That was what it is at the time. Um Also, so the other thing as well, I think that was really powerful from a business and everything perspective that's supporting like is don't let the world around you dictate your pace of being.
Mm.
So that was I've always felt I'm swimming against the yeah, what's a salmon when I say swimming
Yeah,
against
swimming
the
against the current.
I've always felt like that from a little boy, you know. Always felt, you know, in my family, everything felt like the odd one out, you know, and always felt like I was different in whatever way, and you know, and had a lot of negative connotations to that, if you like, from when I was a kid, and the the part of that as well is, you know, it's like this hustle grind and stuff like that, you know, and whatever, you know, and so there was part of me questioning about, am I working hard enough, right? Because I'm quite open about, you know, I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and play golf Wednesdays and Fridays, and family stuff on the weekends, right?
Mm.
And then there was a question to myself early enough, is like, am I working hard enough to get what I really want for my family, people around me, stuff like that? And then that realization with that around, that's me letting the world determine what pace.
Hmm.
So, and
And what you want.
yeah, yeah. And I'm a different pace. So Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I'm quite full on. I'm, you know,
Yeah.
work, you know, and Wednesdays, Fridays, and the weekends, I'm quite, you know, particularly at the weekend, Nicole probably testimony that you know, she often says to me sometimes, you know, like say, "Are you in a mood or whatever?" You know, it's the and the thing about reactions, I tend to let the Liverpool's result react how my mood, if you like, on a weekend. But the but it's just, you know, I'll go into a very relaxed state of mind, and the so I can be different, and I can be different on the golf course. I can be different in whatever I want to, you know, whatever situation I want to be in and whatever things. And it's like the just because the world says, you know, this is all hustle and bustle and you have to do this, or you know, so it's again, it's being connected to who you truly are, and that includes being your behaviors in that. So that's a lot come up for me around behaviors, you know, and
Mm.
being okay with the fact of, you know, if you're relaxed, and you know, and that's it. But you know, a bit like, you know, I got my spiritual animal, the rhino, but it's very much like that, you know, where it's a very introverted animal. It's the media has made it out to be, you know, we always see the images of the charging rhino, that's probably about 1% of its being is because, and the only charging it goes for what it wants. You know, that was me in my last hour and a half, you know, charging for that completed sign, you know, to what it meant, you know, it's just charging for it. And the bit at the start's about even getting out there, me charging, going for what I want, despite the fact, well, what are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? You know, all of these people around me, you know, and
Hmm.
not fully understanding why I've done it, but that was okay. But the rest of the time was in my own pace, you know, and introverted, and being okay with that, you know, and I feel there's a lot in the world, just pressures of, you know, we've got to be this and be that, and you know, and more so I feel with that, you know, for, you know, for particularly for mums and stuff like that, you know, that are born into the, you know, kind of all these labels and conditions, you know, how you're supposed to be and everything like that. It's hands off, you know, and I think that that insight will serve my children very well, I think, because of my perception, you know, my view changing on that, if you like, you know, and um, you know, being whatever you've got to be, you know, if you don't figure out that your purpose until you're 64, then that's fine, you know. um, if you figure it out when you're 20, then even better, you know, but it doesn't matter. Um, so that was a real insight. And the other one that there was almost the final one, I suppose, that I leave out, because it was almost confirmation of something that I've always felt. So we live by social media, and we want to share stuff, and I want to see stuff that you share and stuff like that, of your life or whatever. But I've always been a little bit of, it's like when I share stuff in social media, it's normally it's after the moment's happened. I'll take pictures and all that, but I won't share it until after the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the things that really hit me was that I was trying to take a picture of the moon at one point. I had a really kind of picturesque thing where there was the moon and then the sun one side. And I thought, this would be really good. This would be a good social media shot. That was my first thing that I caught myself being, yeah. And then I was looking at my camera, the thing, and then I was looking at this moon and the sun. And life was so much more beautiful, not through the lens,
Yeah.
in real world. Almost felt like I could touch the moon, almost felt like I could touch the sun. It's like I was right in the middle, and I was walking this way, which is interesting. It's like walking towards the sun, away from the moon, and that wasn't planned, in the journey. That was just how it turned out. And so I was walking forward when the sun was kind of rising, got to see it, which again wasn't planned. It wasn't like I'll go walk towards the sun. It just happened, and well, it didn't just happen because there was something obviously that made me want to do that. But but there was that. I just wrote down at the time, like life in real world is far more beautiful than through a lens. And the sort of kind of backside of that is, I think, is just enjoy the moment, and you can take pictures and you can share that later if for your own thing, but it's to really enjoy that moment. And and it's interesting, and someone, and it kind of realized, it's different for different people, but there was a bit of I saw someone sharing something yesterday on social media, and I really kind of felt the urge, almost like I feel like I need to reach out to them and tell them to enjoy the moment, because they're sharing this, and it's like they were live on their Instagram stories, if you like, and I just kind of want to go. I just really had this real burden, just enjoy the moment, as I was actually upset for them, even though they won't know it, it's like you're missing out on such a connection here. Just put your phone away, and a few years time we'll all have contact lenses, it'll be recording our daily stuff anyway, we won't have to worry about it. But I did have that. It was Be Me, wasn't it? I think that was the app with Casey Neistat that didn't really take off, did it? With a few years ago, it was just you put your phone and it records some lens automatically without you having to touch it. And but that for me, life in the real world is far more beautiful than through a lens, and sharing that narrative is far more inspiring than what you think to your people that follow you, that are connected to you on social media. It's funny, one thing I've been jostling with around is how that will show up in terms of how it, from that into showing up to something, was that we've been looking at this with the videos, doing these reels with the what do you call it, the subtitles and stuff like that, and now I'm like, no, I want people to watch the videos of me with listening to me, because that's when they're only gonna feel, they're gonna feel my vibe, they're gonna feel my energy. If they're reading it off the subtitles, it may as well not be me there talking. It may as well just doing as an AI background or whatever like that. So the fact that if I haven't got subtitles on my videos now, I might have, like, obviously hear points, what the thing is about, but not full subtitles. And unless they're auto generated automatically from like the Loom videos, and some of them are all Facebook are auto generated, but I don't need to worry about that, because I want people to experience me talking and my energy rather than no sound. So if someone's going to watch a video with me and they don't want to watch it with sound, I'm not interested in them watching my video. It doesn't, because they're not taking it in, they're not experiencing it anyway. So that was kind of how that showed up straight away, in terms of that actually we don't need all this false narrative around stuff, and this behind is the just show the real world, and just be in the moment with stuff. Is far more beautiful than can look at you know, we deal with animals, don't we, and all that, but there's nothing better, you know, there's nothing real that can, at the moment, you know, I don't know how technology will go over the next few years, you know, but there's nothing that can replace, I think, that moment, if you like. And that was really seeing the sun, you know, the moon coming down, the sun coming up at the same time, and experiencing that, and
Mm.
then trying to take a picture, and the difference between the picture, you know, and I took a really wonderful picture of the sunset, actually. That is a really nice picture, but I look at it, and I'm thinking about the moment when I actually saw that as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, and as much as a good picture it is, it's nothing compared to the what I was experiencing when I was feeling it and in the moment
Mm.
with it. So
I
it's
think
really,
that's becoming more evident, like more true with that, you know, we do Zoom calls as
mm,
a, you know, or some form of or Facebook Lives, you know, people aren't physically together in a room.
mm.
It's
I think,
very little that happened. You know, it's
yeah,
very, you know, it doesn't happen very often anymore, or it didn't. And I think it's going to start to shift back again, where people will go back into that physicality of like being in each other's physical space, whether it's,
mm,
you know, whether you're going to on a retreat, whether you're um uh going networking, all of those things I think are going to start to
yeah.
change.
There's a little bit. I think there's a little bit now of people, you know, honoring the environment. You know, how many people when you go on a multi Zoom as well,
Mm,
when you know people going off camera and turning their camera off and going down things, that, you know, they're not with you in the moment. You know, it's, you know, it's interesting that we come here. You know, I've closed all my windows. You know, I've got my two screens, but I've closed my windows. I've got this screen. I've just got the insights that I took on the content plan and on my tablet in front of me, so that just because I knew I wouldn't be able to remember it all. Um, but my phone's off. You know, you know, everything's, you know, everything's off in here. You know, it's just like, it's again taking responsibility. My responsibility for me is to be in the moment with you and enjoy this moment.
mm,
And you know, I hope that narrative gets pushed more with people, rather than people feel like, you know, how many you see on people that do, you know, they're doing their emails or they're doing something else, you know, or they're,
yeah.
or you know, I've been in things where, um, you know, on Zoom calls, if you like, and then you come off it afterwards, and then when I'm sort of scrolling social media, I think, well, they've posted that while we've been on it Zoom. You know, um, it just, it's very disingenuous. I think, and that, I mean, it's part of it. I think this, you need to experience what something being in the moment really is, you know.
Hmm. There's a difference between being in the moment and present.
Mm, yeah.
And I think it's a very fine line, and I think a lot of people experience one but not the other.
Mm,
And I think it's a real gift when you're able to experience both at the same time. Like it very much sounds like you were able to experience that, and
mm,
not just experience it but be it. So the fact, you know, like that ripple effect, that, you know,
mm,
that vibration, if you like, that ripples out of you, that echoes out of you, is reciprocated by the universe, which you know, which will ripple it back. So you can't not be connected. You can't not experience the wonder, the energy, the hairs on my arms going up. You know, that there is
mm.
a whole um it's just awareness, like heightened awareness. And I think
Yeah.
we've kind of got lost in that
But I think
ability to do
one of
that.
the one of the insights I had near the end
Hmm.
was that I've had all these insights, I've had all these things around, you know, behaviors and stuff like that, if you like, and get this. And one of the insights I had later on was that I've got to truly hold myself accountable to my being.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff is pointless if I just go, oh, that was a good exercise and that's it. It's like, you know, how do I look back in this in 6 months' time and look back and go, do you know what? I've changed narrative in how I'm experiencing stuff or whatever,
Mm.
you know. And 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 there was the thing for me is there's got to be a real more onus on people to be self-accountable for who they truly want to be. And that's and I don't know how that shows up yet, but that that's it's shown up a couple of times where I'm just trying to. It was a good example of it yesterday. I'm trying to think what the example was where it just showed up where I changed myself. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was now. It was something stupid like doing the washing up or something like that, and it was just like that self accountability, around I was just going to walk past it and like, I will do that later. And then it's like, no, just do it now and get it done, and it's almost like there's got to remind that self-awareness to remind yourself that that I suppose that's half the battle, so sometimes you're doing things you don't even realize, but it's that the other one, as stupid as it sounds, but it's probably a good example. So a pet hate of mine is someone that doesn't change the toilet bowl, right, when it goes down, which is normally Callum, right? So he doesn't change the toilet bowl, and that's my pet. It's like, oh, it takes a second to do, why do that? Why not change it? Whatever. But and so I had it the other night when it's in the middle of the night. It's like the toilet, and then there's no toilet bowl in it, and I built a lovely thing above our toilet, so where the toilet bowls are stored, by the way, so you haven't got to go to another room or anything; they're right there, right? And again, my first thing was a little bit, and then I said, hold on, I don't know the full story here. And it might just be someone's done it in the house, obviously Callum, Nick, I might have been Leah, and just whatever reason had good intention to do it, forgot about it, whatever. So I don't know the whole story here. So there's no judgment, and if reality is going to take me 5 seconds to change the toilet roll now. And it was kind of I'm calling them slow motion moments at the moment, because it's the only way I could explain it.
Yeah.
It felt like it stopped. I'd sort of kind of contextualize it, like what's going on, what's really going on, what's your awareness, how you reacting, you're reacting wrong. So and reality was that it took seconds, if that blink of an eye. But it was interesting. It was like a slow motion moment of me capturing of me self accountability to my own being well. So,
it's interesting you're saying about the slow motion, because I know you're very aware that I talk quite a lot about reflection, and you see the reflection in the stream, in the river, in the water when it's still, when it's in slow motion. When it's rushing and going fast, you can't see that, you can't make the reflection out. It's still there, but you can't make it out. And just by that awareness, just it sounds so tiny, like, what do you mean just? It's like just is so easy. And yet how challenging that just can be.
Yeah.
Just giving yourself a moment to slow down. I mean, I'm renowned for people say, oh, she's so slow, everything she does is always in like slow motion, and I like being present, I like understanding, and I am slow. I'm not super fast, and yet there's other things where I am fast and I'm quick at things, and I go too fast.
And again, it's like, not letting the world, like we said before, not letting the world determine your thing. But it just amazed with that scenario, that sort of there was probably nothing slow motion, anyone watching it. It probably happened in a second.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how I was able to capture that moment in my mind.
With the awareness for you to be able to even catch yourself.
Yeah. And I firmly put that down to me really challenging who I am being, in every scenario, not just work life or, on the golf course, whatever, who I am actually being constantly, which, I explored on a 12-hour walk. It's just like that deep. There is something about the, whatever it is this, because I've done, obviously done a lot of times, gone into deep work and stuff, but there was something about going into a walk, without with that rule as well. The wonderful thing about it is the rule of, and it's I'll say the first few hours, probably the first 3 or 4 hours, it is very, very difficult not to look at your notifications. Right. And then it's even more difficult when you go to capture something on your phone and then you see there's loads, and then I'm going to ignore it. I'm not going to do anything until I get home, you know. And that in itself, again, it's a real willpower that you're not at the beck and call of other people, or you know, you can react to things when you need to react back. And you know, if there's anything crap going on in your life with emails, it's all still going to be there when you you know, it's still going to be there. I had one of the missed calls I had was from the GigaClear people. So a new broadband thing we're having in, because we've been about 75 megabytes, and finally in a middle of nowhere in Essex, we're going to be able to get 600 megabytes, you know, which is huge for us. Right? It won't take me all night to upload a video afterwards and stuff like that. But one of the missed calls was there was an opportunity to have that the next day on the Saturday, because it was them ringing up saying, "Oh, we've got an appointment near you, which is now not happening. Do you want that space?" And again, my first instinct was, "Oh, damn, could have had that." You know, if I'd been answering my phone, but then the next time, it wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be. We can wait. It's only, you know, so we'll get on the 26th. We can wait. It's not big, you know. And so things like that, you're just different perspective, you know. But I'm not knowing, looking at your notifications, having that rule where you're not going to look at your phone, you're not going to think, you know, is or react to the notifications, everything is super powerful in itself. Super powerful. In fact, then it probably to the point of the next time I might not even take my phone, just take a dictation machine, if you like, you know. And but you obviously, you know, you're told to, because you obviously don't know if you need it for emergency or whatever like that. But and in a way, it's a good thing I did, because obviously, because I forgot my cards and my cash. So,
But even on reflection, even on that, I could go there's so much in just this 12-hour walk. Ha ha. Just again, about, you know, the challenges. So you gave yourself the challenge of the elbow, you gave yourself the challenge of the toe, and then you leave the house 20 minutes and you've got the challenge of payments, like cash, cards. Like all of it is then you know, the challenge of not having enough socks, the challenge of, you know, oh, I really fancy some sausage and chips now, and oh, a cup of tea would be lovely. You know, all of those things, they're reality, but they're not they're not who you are. They're not you. Does that make sense? And being able to let go of that, I think, is something that I don't know if you're aware that you do a lot of. Like, you are very naturally, just, you've learned to do this. This is a skill. It's something that so many people strive for.
It come out of my walk, actually, that a lot of things come back to things that I was doing years ago that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
You know, how powerful they are. And one of the things that I used to have and it used to be a bit of a joke at the time, that when I was back in my corporate days and doing the turnaround projects, I was, you know, I mean, in my corporate days, I was kind of the golden child. Everything I touched turned to gold. And I was a different Scott at that point. If you like, I'm different now. I used to get angry quickly, you know, and used to react to, you know, thing, and and I was a real dirty fighter. So I'd always, you know, it's because I was a skinny kid, and my dad being brought up in the hard part of Glasgow, I always thought, you know, just go prepare to go one further than anyone else, you know. You know, which has led me to do some things which, you know, which are on reflection, I won't, you know, be proud of. But it's who wasn't in that situation. But one of the things that in my college days, that I had this rule where I used to hate the word problem. So you know, you get staff coming, got a problem, and I was like, no. And so one of the rules I used to put in, I was known as a bit of a my way or the highway. Before fun enough, 7 Habits, I read that, and then my complete management style changed completely. But one of the things people come to, and you say, right, I don't want to hear the word problem, right? I just don't want to hear it. And I tell you, like, nothing's a problem. It's just a challenge and an obstacle. And that, funny enough, I think has played out in my life a lot more significant than I've ever given it credence for. Because I think there's a lot of things where, you know, and I won't go into my whole life story. It's not all, you know, everyone doesn't know everyone else's life story, you know, but there's been some real harsh times in there. But the bounce back has always been this kind of, well, it's just a challenge and an obstacle. And if it's a challenge and obstacle, there's a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it might not, you know, the way around it might have been, well, I need to just go back and get my phone or something, you know, or go back and get some walk around. You're still part of the 12-hour walk. It's not an issue. It could have been, you know, whatever the thing was, but it was just a challenge. And when I actually stood for a minute and went, right, got my phone, got Google Pay. It's 2023, for God's sakes, you know, like everywhere's got. If somewhere hasn't got Google, you know, hasn't got card payment, then it wasn't meant to be, you know. And then I just went, you know, and that was it, you know, and I just carried on, you know. So it was like just giving yourself that moment, I think, of, you know, the life's going to throw stuff at you. Be able to just go, right, it's a challenge and obstacle, and think about it. There is lots of it, but again, that come out was a different. I think it is a skill set that I've really been good at implementing over the years, but without realizing it.
Mm.
There's a lot come out of it, of the if you like, self gratifying, I suppose, self gratitude, you know, around things that you know, realizing what you're good at. Actually, some stuff that you're good at is not all about sort of kind of tearing yourself down, and a lot of positive stuff from it, you know, that was a little bit of just do that more, you know, being aware of it, and saying things like self-awareness. You know, I kind of knew I was self-aware, but I hadn't acknowledged and I really experienced it to another level. That I thought, well, I'm really good. I'm really good at this stuff. You know,
You are.
And yeah, and it would have been difficult for me to receive that. You know, so you know, appreciate it, but it would have been difficult to me to receive that. I would have challenged you on that 2 weeks ago. You know, a week and a half
Prove
ago.
it. How does that show up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
so,
It's
yeah.
interesting because another thing that I wrote down was, you know, even before the walk, and I think it's quite important. It feels like it's important for me to share this for other people who are listening to this. So when you were talking about the challenges and with your elbow and then making those calls, and the awareness that I have of your, like, who you are for your tribe, what you stand for, both for your tribe and for yourself. And one of the ones that you have is about having your back. Like, you have your client's back. You have my back. You have, I've seen you have your clients' backs, and you also have your own. Like, you've, yeah, the elbow's sore, but do you know what? It's my clients here. I've got their back. I'm here. I've made this commitment. I'm doing this. I can go at the end. Like, they might not be able to, like, if you'd gone to the hospital first with your elbow, they might not have been able to see you at 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
So that kind of like the ripple, that kind of it's like I experience it like a sound boom, you know, like a you know, if you record sound, it comes out like it goes up and down, it's out and up and down and out as well. That it emanates from you. Your very being does nothing but affirm it. Like, it's constantly affirming all of the truth of you.
Thank you.
But I think it's important, you know.
I think is something I did that I didn't realize that I'd done. You made me emotional now, but something that I hadn't realized is that when and I tell you, I didn't know. I think it's over time, kind of, you find out who your true being is, or you know, there's been a lot of, say, personal development over the last probably 6-7 years, but really I accelerated it from 3 years ago, when I really got lost, when I didn't know who I was and what stuff. After my illness and after this illness, and I really just felt like you know, I wasn't being Scott, I wasn't being no one, I was being no good to no one, you know, and that go from there. There's a real element of that you won't be able to do like an exercise, spend one session with someone and go, right, I know who I'm true being is now. I think it's, it comes out things, but there's got to be a real commitment to it, at and one of the affirmations I used to do myself a couple of years ago, and I was looking back over an old journal, funny enough, the other day, and it came out is I was affirmation to myself that world-class level.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time I was very much listening. You probably remember it at the time, Robin Sharma I was into and Lewis
Yeah.
Howes. That word world class, and even I listened to Robin Sharma recently. It was like, doing something well, and that affirmation to myself around do everything at a world class level.
Mm-hmm.
I was, meditating to and affirmations in the morning. Actually, and at that time I probably didn't believe in affirmations as much as what I do now. I would say, but I stuck with it. I was like committed to doing it, and this is the commitment to the change, commitment to the habits. Even if you don't fully believe in something, they're committed to. Well, you know what? It might have a positive difference, so I'm going to try it, and I'm going to be open-minded about it. And if and be able to look at the end of it and go, what? I gave it my all, but it didn't do that for me, but did this for me. And I think looking back, that if I was praising myself and looking at myself from outside, I'd say my world-class commitment to just being who my true being in
Mm-hmm.
every touch, has something I can be proud of. I can look back and go, I'm proud, and actually just encourages me to do it even more, I think, to the point
And
where,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because it doesn't, when you're as self-aware as you are now, being proud of yourself isn't arrogance. It isn't boastful. It isn't. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
you'd said it maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, it would have, there's still there would have been some arrogance in it or some boastfulness or I'm better than you on it.
There's something that I think that's quite significant, that I don't know again where I come from. I have a friend called Dave Neese. I don't know if you're connected to Dave.
Don't know.
But
No.
we're deep friends, and we go very deep in conversation about things, and we're very connected in terms of we really push each other in terms of looking at different things with an open mind and different
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint. And Dave will share something with me, and I'll go, and it might be something completely I don't believe in, or I go, that's an interesting viewpoint, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and I think that, and again, I'm not completely sure. It's funny that I've sort of WhatsApp this series where I've had an insight into something like a lot of insights I've had. Um, a question that I then kind of ask myself is, how can I teach that? How can I share that with someone? And a lot of the time, I completely don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I say, and I'm reason why I big day because there'll be comments I'll go, like, I've just had this one insight, and I shared one with you, and I said I have no idea how I would teach that or share that with someone. And he messaged back. He said, like, I don't know exactly said, but he said, when you'll find a way when you need to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the kind of level of trust, if you like, confidence you've got in each other, and that each other's back, if you like, on that sense. But that purpose of, well, I had this amazing insight for myself. Not how do I prescribe it to someone, but how do I inspire someone, teach it to someone? And a lot of
Yeah.
it is you've got to embrace that and live it throughout.
Yes.
And the real inspiration is people going, hopefully, well, Scott done a 12 and got amazing insights. I would love to talk to him and find out, and go and do my own 12-hour walk,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's me teaching it in an inspiring way, rather than being, I did this 12-hour walk, I got lots out of it, you go and do it because you're my client. It's not that, it's like, if you
Mm.
want to go and do it, and this is, I'll give you I'll share my experience with anyone and insights, but a lot of it is you've got to go, being able to, I think anything like that when you have an insight or something like that if you can then turn to, how can I inspire someone else to have that insight, or how can I teach someone else to have that insight?
Mm-hmm.
The perspective again changes completely.
Yeah.
And again, something I'm proud of myself, that I'm able to kind of, that thinking like that is, I think, changed my mentality. I've gone, wow, that's an amazing insight. How can I share that with people? A bit like what we did with the what I stand for.
Yeah.
I would have not shared that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years, whatever.
Well, I
Probably.
wouldn't have shared it except for the other two
and
weeks
and
ago.
and, and funny enough, I had a conversation with someone who was on that call that was really inspired by you sharing it. You sharing yours.
Oh my goodness.
So it was the yeah, so one of the new people that joined was like really, oh God, this is what an amazing community this is.
Mm.
Someone that joined the Building Scale that day said I might give it away for you. Joined us that day and was on that call. The fact that you were sharing your what I stand for, made them feel like they were really in a place where it was home and in a sharing community that we, at a
And you've created that.
high level.
You've inspired that.
Mm.
Your gift to the world. Yeah. You are. We all are. It's not a.
Absolutely.
But yeah, being able to own it and have it reflected back, I think, is hugely powerful for people.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, I'm talking about the Build and Scale program that Scott does. Mostly currently, I'm going to say for coaches, in case in years to come he changes his mind
Oh,
and opens it out to more.
the coaches, there's a thin line between anyone in sort of kind of the health and wellness arena as well. So like yoga to, so people that they might do personal training or yoga to a class, but want to take it into more of a online program as well. It's there's a very thin line between that and
yeah, it's very much about. So Scott talks about he's teaching you about the marketing and he supports you in how you would be support. Like for me, we've been in each other's world probably what 2-3 years now. Whenever you did the 14-day challenge, that's when
that's
I
2 years
first.
April. I was trying to make us. Yeah, I was talking to someone
So
earlier.
that
I think it's 2 years April. It might be 3 years April. I've lost.
that's when I first encountered you, and I was like, oh, do I do it? No, all right. And I was just drawn to the simplicity of it, of how you presented everything. It was all doable. There was no experience of overwhelm, which I had previously, and just that like you walk along at my pace. And then where obviously now I've just had pretty much a year where I disappeared with various grief things. It was just life. So yeah, various losses, and I'd literally just come out of one grief process, and then I'd lose somebody else close, and then back into grief again. So, and being able to have that space and not have, being pressured into, you need to get marketing, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, you need to just having that is you having your back for your clients. Like that's how I know it to be true.
Thank you. And that was the
So
first one really where I felt I was sharing content from a being me perspective. The biggest insight is I don't know what it's funny. There's some things you do and you think, what? I don't know why I did that. But it was then you look back and go, do you know what? It's like as much as I would love to put it down to strategy, that was just kind of it was me. But the thing where I did a live walk again. Just went for a walk, and just shared why I was doing what I was doing. That's all I did. But I shared it from a place of, I don't care. I can't control how people react. I don't care how people react. I'm just going to share it from my heart, and whatever it will be. And it was, and I just shared why I was doing what I was doing from a real going for a walk, just very me at my own pace again. Being distracted with the ducks, so I remember that and stuff like that, and the feedback and the energy back from that me sharing that was so powerful and so like a wake up call for me. Like you can just be you, in that now. And the conversation I had around with my coach before that was that I wanted to share content and I wanted to inspire people to share content without a narrative of it's got to be, I've got to show that I've got a great life. I've got to show that I'm, in a 20-story building in Dubai or something, whatever this thing. It was just, going for a walk on and just opening your heart, be like, and that was kind of without a narrative, if you like,
Hmm.
of I want it to be like. It's more about the content, if you like, is more powerful than the environment, or or the sentencing, whatever like that. And it's sharing it from the heart. And that was the first time I'd done anything like that. And the response back just energized me to be just try and be
To
who I
be
was.
more you.
Yeah, yeah, and be unashamedly that, if you like,
Mm.
you know, um, and even though I had mentors at the time that was trying to push me a completely opposite way to that, um, and yeah, I had a coach that brought it out in me, which was forever grateful for, which is
Yeah.
um, yeah, which is really cool. It's a simple question. I think it's really funny because I think everything has a simple. You can put everything down to a simple question, and if you're prepared to ask yourself a simple question but allow yourself to go, the answer is indefinite, and nothing's wrong, there's no judgment to whatever the answer is, you'll get powerful insights. But the simple question of that was, if I was already at a place of where I see aspirational people like Robin Sharma, Lewis Howes, if I
Hmm.
was already at their level,
Yep.
what would I be sharing? That was the simple question. And again, the if you like, the the domino effect from that has been, it's going to have, the effects are going to, well, the effects are going to outlive me, which is something,
Mm.
that warms my heart. But it was just a simple question, that if I was at that level already, we all talk about where we want to aspire to and we get to, but the real, just looked at people that I really aspired to and where they were, that, were way ahead of me, like, but if it wasn't, not just necessarily about, wasn't just about where they are financially, it was around where they are, as a, there'll be people that don't like Robin Sharma, and that's fine. There's us, but but for me, I saw him as a very philosophical, wise, and the insightful. When someone keeps saying something and you find it really insightful, and then what would I share if I was at that level already? If I already had 20 bestsellers on the things or something like that, and
Mm.
um, it's a powerful place to share stuff from, but everything, there's a simple, there's a whatever's going on in people's lives, there's a simple question, and it might be, and that's what I'd say. If someone goes on the 12-hour walks, they're happy to get in touch with me and ask me my insights already, things.
Wear two pairs of socks. That was one of your,
Definitely, yeah.
and make sure you've
um,
got blister plasters.
and just, yeah, just, I mean, someone says we take a change pair of socks, my halfway, they said, if you, it's like, so I meant today, and just said, if you just take a pair of socks, a spare pair of socks, because it'll feel just unbelievable if you, when you change your socks at halfway.
Mm.
And then it's like, I think it was 2 hours in and I had to change my socks
Yep.
because they were wet, because and again, one of the things, is like some parts of the journey I could walk quick and it was flat, other parts I need to really think about where I was going. There's one part where it was just mud and puddles,
Yeah, I
and
remember you saying that.
I, and I really couldn't, other than walking through a field. And I thought, well, it's going to be muddy walking through a field, and so I had to really slow down and navigate that period, and it's just life, isn't it? You have to just slow
Mm.
down sometimes and navigate that difficult period. And and again,
It's like nature's made you come, you have to be in your body to
yeah,
navigate. That is that kind of terrain.
yeah,
You can't be off thinking about other things. You've got to be concentrating on what the ground feels like underneath you and what
yeah.
your body's
Not
doing.
long to get that spell, that bit, but it was like, it was like an insight. It's okay to slow down
Mm.
when times are hard,
Yeah.
because you have to think about it. You have to tread carefully. You have to make the look ahead, and you are. And then, the worst case, no, my socks were wet. I had another spare pair of socks. I just didn't realize how quickly I'd want another spare. Um, and even that, I had the hand warmers that I started off with in the morning. So then I just put my hand warmers in my wet socks, and so
Hmm.
it's just, you know, again, is if everything's a challenge, you know, you just kind of ride with it. And when you haven't got a choice like that, you just ride with it. You realize how there's it's just answers to things, you know. And but yeah, I'll definitely take more pairs of socks. Would be the the biggest one. A big pair of socks. But yeah, but again, you know, it's like it's not just the answer of going, I'm going to go for 12 hour. Right, great, I'm going to go and get 12-hour work. Well, I think it's the level of commitment in how you want to challenge yourself mentally, you know, and challenge who you're truly being. And so I had a set of questions I just pondered and really, and I had to keep challenging myself. You know, your mind tries to distract you. When you get tired, it's difficult because you do. And that was, you know, that was some life lessons as well. You know, it's like it's interesting where, you know, like with Nicole, you know, we just life, you know, back from where they was just saying, you know, my mindset's changed completely. You know, it's like tired for the day and going over rest. You know, it's like I realized, you know, like you've got to recharge at some point. You know, when your mind gets tired, I was aware enough to know that my mind was getting seriously distracted, and that's purely because my body was tired. You know, and so
It's interesting, isn't it, that we don't, you know, you wouldn't let your phone go flat. Like you put your phone on charge when it needs it.
yeah,
It's, you know, but why don't we do that for
yeah.
ourselves?
Yeah, and I've done it since, you know, in between since where I've had a scenario where um you know what I felt tired or whatever, you know, I was gonna do like I'm big on doing power hours during the day, you know, and it's gonna do a power hour, and then I was like, oh, do you know what? I'll just do half an hour, and I'm just gonna go and lie in the bed upstairs, you know, and just watch videos on YouTube or something for half an hour, you know,
Hmm.
just chill down a little bit, you know, and do that other half hour. Okay, I'll do that later on, you know, and knowing that that's you're just going, that's okay.
Yeah.
And again, you know, no, you know, just saying, you know, being up front, you know, I'm just gonna Nicole, I'm just gonna go lie down, and you know, do you want a cup of tea, you know, before I go down, you know, it just kind of being like that aware around, you know, people around, you know, it's like, you know, and you know, whatever Nicole's reaction would have been, but you know, I shared a lot of this stuff earlier, you know, it's again going, you've got to recharge yourself, you know, that's a big you know, lesson for
Yeah.
me, and it's okay, you know, if you're feel tired during the day, you want to just go and have a sleep for half an hour, power hour of sleep or whatever. It's you know, for me, I'm now looking at how I build that into my daily practice as well.
Mm.
Where I'm full on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, but I'm now looking at that like actually, even though I'm full on, how can I, you know, I do take lunch breaks, but I'm very much go quickly eat something and then come back into, you know, it's like how do I take that time to chill
Mm.
out a little bit in halfway through the day.
And nature does it all the time.
Mm.
Like you being out in nature, you know, you'd have been much more aware. You know, birds don't fly for the, you know, the 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours that the sun's up. You
Yeah.
know, they rest
Yeah.
as
Animals,
does
there's a lot of
Tinny.
insights of animals, isn't it? You see it from,
Mm.
you know, your dog goes for a walk and the first thing it does is then goes, you know, is off off for the fairies, you know, fast asleep,
Yep.
you know. It kind of replenishes itself, you know, comes back from a walk, drinks as much water as it can possibly drink, you know, and then
Yep.
has a little sleep, you know, it's like, well, that's it's in
Yeah.
its real
Why is it
place.
okay for them to do it and not for us to do
Yeah.
it? It's
But what it is, isn't it? That's you
yeah.
know, that's the narrative that needs to change. It is okay.
Mm. Yeah. It
It's
sounds
the,
very much like you're moving to a space of non-judgment.
yes, yeah,
That kind of you're waking up to the awareness
yeah.
of that space of non-judgment.
And also I think the thing that came up me a little bit as well was I would I would say I'm not a very judgmental person. I would say after the 12-hour walk that's not strictly true. And then I'm not well classed at it, and there's more
Yes.
to go there. So now, but being open to that
Mm.
and being open to catch and reset myself and hold myself accountable to, or you know, like the toilet roll, but that was me being judgment, you know, and then coming out of that space quickly, you know,
Mm.
you know, you can that split second you got that choice of how you react, you know,
Yep.
just, and it is a choice at the end of the day. Yeah.
definitely.
Well, it's gone on for a long time.
Oh goodness, it has.
Joe Rogan style.
Oh, we went off too much. Come back, come back. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing.
It's really is quite, I've shared my own thoughts and stuff, but to have someone put it out of me is very, yeah, another part of the experience, which is wonderful.
Mm. It's yes, well, I look forward to others as well. You
Mm.
expressing it on other people's podcasts as well, and
Yeah,
talking, sharing more about the insights, because I imagine it will take a while for you to kind of get comfortable with sharing some of them.
yeah, that was interesting. I don't want to go on for that way, but I am going to do, even if it's for my own thing, first of all, around probably just going through my insights one by one and just sharing it. So I've got a recording of it while it's still fresh. But I can see a lot of it showing up, yeah, in the past, and yeah, and being open to doing other podcasts. I think need to be scared of doing that, but put myself out there. And there's a few Facebook groups then where you can put yourself up saying, things, and
Hmm.
I think that's the first part of inspiring people to kind of, look deep inside themselves first of all is the next part. And
Yeah. And for
yeah,
others, it might not be a 12-hour walk. It might be something else, but it's the opportunity. It's that want, that desire, the plan, the map,
mm,
the destination of where you wanted to go was for this, the chance, the opportunity to
yeah,
go deep, to go deeper than you can go when others are trying to take you there.
yeah. And one of the funny enough, one of the things that I put down a kind of, I asked myself a question near the end, trying to get through it. If you like, would I do this again? Because I thought that if you can answer that question, why, yes, while you're in your utmost pain,
Yeah.
is proof that it's been very valuable, if you like. But one of the things that I kind of said was I would actually like to test myself on a probably smaller scale, maybe a 6 hour one,
Hmm.
but doing it like walking through like um the sights of London, just like so where there's like lots of distractions, where there's like lots of people, where there's
Hmm.
like different energy, that if I, like could I get a different insight into stuff, doing it in a place where there's lots of different energies and
Mm.
negative, positive, and a lot of limiting beliefs in people, but but to doing it in a maybe in a 6 hour one around London is one I might change myself next quarter, because it's kind of intention to do one each quarter, but not maybe
Hmm.
not for a 12-hour one, but doing one like in, say, like the centre of London when I'm walking around, so to see what if
The contrast, yeah.
really test myself, if like that, can you really, even when there's lots of distractions and lots of energies, can you go full, in deep into yourself, and as I don't know why that challenge come out on it, but that was something that come out for me around it, around testing yourself in there. I think it's probably because some people say, "Oh, well, I live in, in a city, so it's not as easy for me to go. It's easy, thing." But so there might be something like that, proving people wrong, limitations, Um, but it's, yeah, some fascinating things that might come out of it in the future. I don't know, but
Oh, we should look forward to that. There's always fascination
mm,
that comes out. The
yeah,
truth is revealed. Well, the untruths fall away,
yeah.
so the truth can be revealed.
Mm,
Awesome.
yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I shall end this recording now so that it can go wherever it has to go, wherever that is. Stop.